Buongiorno, my love.
Ciao ragazzi.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here with my co-leader for life.
Hello.
We're taking Remo out to the dog park. He is currently running around and having a glorious time with his buddies.
Oh yeah. Best. Living his best life.
Always. So this week we're talking about discernment, and we're talking about discernment because discernment is the tool set that we use to become those rational actors in collective decision-making processes. So yesterday what we talked about was step one, which is a conscious awareness of choice. And this is starting to become really consciously aware of the infinite number of choices that we actually have in every single situation. Okay, so that's step one. So step two is that we then actually have to make a choice.
Make a decision.
We have to make a decision. So we have to take decisive action, are the words that we in our leadership development put around it. Take decisive action at that point. Okay, so
I like that.
yeah, you like the decisive action.
Decisive
action.
That's
Exactly.
knife hand action.
Exactly.
I like it. All right. Okay.
So it's really important to be able to take this decisive action because we have to become kind of the learning systems in this place. And if we never actually take action, then we can't ever get to that space of learning.
Yeah, and in my industry, like one of the things that I learned from Ranger School is, their bumper sticker when it comes to decision making is, I don't care. The only bad decision is no decision.
Yeah.
I don't care what decision you make, just make a decision.
Yeah.
You're under stress, so your amygdala, we know from neuroscience, I don't know if they knew it back when they started training people on this, but we know it now.
Yeah.
We know from neuroscience that when you're under stress, your amygdala goes into three options. Your first option, everybody goes to freeze, like you're a deer in a headlight. And then flight, if you get discovered, run away. Last one is fight.
Yeah.
And the ranger, in leadership in combat, it's like, no, there is no freezing.
Yeah.
Don't freeze.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make a decision and do something.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's kind of my experience with that, is that make a decisive action.
Yeah.
Make it.
So it's interesting in John's industry, in the military, that there's a specific training to train people to take decisive action.
Yeah, they beat that out of us.
Yeah, exactly.
The indecision.
And part of this is because they're constantly being put into places of the unknown and places that are stressful situations. And it's fascinating to me that right now there are a lot of conversations, and maybe for the past decade or two, there have been a lot of conversations about how much indecision is out there in the world right now. And almost how much apathy is going on, and kind of why is this happening? And I wonder if maybe this is because of the incredibly rapid change that we've had going on in the world for the last kind of 100 years. So my classic example is Eleanor Roosevelt. When she was little, she was raised in a house that was lit by candles. And by the time she died, a person had landed on the moon. That's a huge change. That's a constant kind of going into the unknown for us as individual human beings. Throughout humanity, most of the time it's been like, well, I don't know, just do whatever your dad did. He's a smith, you be a smith too. And so we didn't have this constant need for extreme discernment because we weren't being constantly put into these places of the unknown. And now we really are. There's this huge development of being in that unknown place.
And then you just go to this default of freeze. And I'd say a good reference for that is Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink. That's that kind of talks through that kind of what you're hitting at.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't read it, you should check it out.
It's a good book.
My public service announcement for Malcolm Gladwell. But we see that in the military as well at the middle management level. We're talking about planning. You've got so many inputs and so much change and so many opportunities that at a certain point you can be, we call it analysis paralysis. You can be frozen in decision-making processes because you've just got so much information that you're scared to make a decision, or you were just pulling, you want more and more information, and maybe also you want to pass the buck. You want, say like, I could have more information. I need a leader, somebody else to make the decision
Yeah.
is too much.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of revert to this freeze sort of a situation of like, I'm just not going to make a decision here. And so it's
the office deer in the headlights.
Yeah. So it's the opposite of what we actually need to do as we're developing this place of discernment. And interestingly, middle management is really that time period of our life when we really need to keep our brain plasticity going. Because
like you talked about yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday it was like we need to make sure that as we're getting older, our brain is not getting rigid and in these rigid lines. We need to keep it open and flexible. And so if we're kind of constantly training our brain during our middle management time period to just freeze and pass the buck to somebody else make that decision, then when we are in kind of our 50s or 60s or maybe at the higher authority levels, that's going to be what we just do. That's going to be our default that we go to because we've trained our brain to do that. So that makes sense. So it's a really, really important skill set to just make some decisions and take decisive action. And as we practice this tool of discernment more and more, we start having more choices than just the fight or flight responses. If we get rid of the freeze, we start having more choices. So remember the conscious choice thing. We start having more than just those two. And it starts being a myriad of options. And this is, as we practice this tool set, as we practice this inside of ourselves, it starts opening up so many more possibilities there.
You go from 2 to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that reminds me also, so something that you have kind of like freed me from that I'd like to share, quote from Carmen Westbrook is that over a long enough time horizon, every decision is a good decision and every decision is a bad decision. And so that's really helped me, especially last few months when I was away. When I was talking to my people, I'd be like, just make a decision. Short term might have a positive impact, might have a negative impact. Long term, we don't know what the second and third order effects are. And so if we just sit there and say, well, what if, 100 years from now, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Maybe it'll be bad, we'll deal with it. Maybe it'll be great, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Just make a decision for the now, the today.
Yeah. So it's a good...
So thank you for that quote.
Okay.
Every decision is a good decision. Every decision is a bad decision. Carmen Westbrook.
So it's important to just start taking that decisive action. And if this is helpful, to think of like, look, every decision is going to be both a good decision and a bad decision. Just make a decision. Then go make those decisions. And then, of course, we have to become those learning organisms. It's important for us to actually learn from the decisions that we're making. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Exciting. I look forward to it.
I am so grateful to you for being my co-leader. Always.
That's what I'm here for.
I love it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in always. Have a beautiful day. It's another blue sky day here at Roma. Enjoy your day.
Have a day to remember.
Bye-bye.
Bye.